শঙ্কা বাজে ঘন্টা বাজে বাজে করতালা मधुरा में रंगा बजे परम रसाला मधुरा में रंगा बजे परम रसाला मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे तायुर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नीताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल कोटि चंद्रजिनी बदन युजाला अरे गला देशे बनमाला करे झलमाला गला सुख नारदा प्रेम गदा गदा ठाकुर भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपाद ठाकुर भक्ति ठाकुर भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपाद के बजायो ओ जय गौरछादेर आरतिक शोभा जय जानवी तटवने जगमन लोभा जानवी तटवने जगमन लोभा जग जनिर मन लोभा जग जनर मन लोभा गौरांगेर आरती शोभार जग जन मन लोभार गौरांगेर गौरांगेर आरती शोभार जग जन मन लोभार गौरांगे हे गौरांगेर आरती शोभार जग जनर मन लोभा हे गौरांगेर आरती शोभा जगत जनर मन लोभा गौरांग गौरांगेर आरती शोभा जगत जन मन लोभा गौरा जग जनर मन लोभा जग जनर मन लोभा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल मिताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन जमुना तीर वनचारी जमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी जय गिरिवरधारी कुंज बिहारी कुंज बिहारी जय गिरिवरधारी हो जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हो जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ प्रभु जय जगन्नाथ ओ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा हो जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ हो जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा बोलो निताय गौरांग निताय गौरांग जय निताय गौरांग निताय गौरांग हो जय सच्चिदानंद गौरारी जय सच्चिदानंद गौरारी जय जय गौर 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 हरि गौर 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 हरि जय निताय गौरांग गौर हरि जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय सच्चिदानंद जय गौर हरि सच्चिदानंद जय गौर हरि जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय वृंदावन धाम, कृष्ण बलराम जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे, जय राधे श्याम ललिता विशाख जय राधे श्याम, जय गिरिराज जय गोवर्धन, गिरिराज जय गोवर्धन, निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल, निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल, जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, जय जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि 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 बोल।
से भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीमद महाराज की जय। देव नित्य लीला प्रकट भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की जय। गौर किशोरा बाबा जी महाराज के जय। सच्चिदानंद भक्ति ठाकुर जय। जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज के जय। चढ़ गोस्वामी के जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद के जय। नामाचार्य हरदास ठाकुर के जय। प्रेम से गो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासति गौर भक्त वृंद के जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोधन के जय। श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम के जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जी जगन्नाथ में धाम के जय। भगवान जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा देव श्री चक्र के जय। श्री श्री राधा माधव जी के जय। गिरी गोविंद गिरिराज महाराज के जय। ताई गौर सुंदर के जय। गंगा माँ यमुना में के जय। वृंद दे भक्त देव के जय। समस्त भक्त वृंद के जय। हरि नाम संकीर्तन के जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र के जय। स्कॉन बाल्टीमोर यात्रा के जय। ताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories assembled Hare. All glories assembled Hare. All glories assembled Hare. All glory, Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Gopal.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladaladaini. Hiranyakashihi Purvakshaha. Shilatanka Nakhalai. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha Ridhaye Narsimha. नरसिंहमधिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to Nikulana Dham, Baltimore, the abode of Nitai Gaur Sundar, Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai, and Shri Shri Radha Madhav. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you, the pujaris. The deities look so magnanimous, so wonderful. Loud Haribol for them, please. Haribol. Thank you. Today we have one sponsor. Our dear Ratak Prabhu turned 60. So he's having prasadam, needing Vaishnava blessings. Can loud Haribol for one, please. Haribol. Okay. So, upcoming programs, we have many wonderful devotees are coming in the next few weeks. We have our own Rohini Priya Prabhu coming on the auspicious weekend of Ramnami festival. So we'll have a 3 or 4 days program on glories of Lord Ram. Then after that, I think Vrindavan Prabhu is coming. And then May is full of festivals. So please remember the festivals. We have our own Lord Jagannath's Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra. When is Rath Yatra festival? Anybody knows? Good job. The kids knows them more than adults. Good job, guys. Thank you for the reminder. 25th. So make sure, whoever is here, please make sure we're going to have a wonderful festival. In 2 more years, our Jagannath is going to turn 50. So that'll be a huge celebration. This year, our Nitai Gaur Sundar is turning 50. Haribo. So please remember, July 5, 6, 7, we are going to have huge celebrations. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj will be here, and he will be the presiding guest and the chief guest here. So we'll have a wonderful festival with wonderful Harinam. We're going to grand Abhishek of the big deities, Nitai Gaur Sundar. We're going to Chandan Yatra festivals. And hopefully by that time, it's possible, then our Jagannath Dome will be ready. Otherwise, we'll be afterwards. We'll keep you updated for a lot of celebrations. And of course, we're trying to start gold plating the deities altar, just like Prabhupada altar. Hopefully, if the devotees so desire and Jagannath's desire is there, we'll fulfill by that time. So, without taking too much time, today we are very fortunate, many times a very special guest comes, and today there's a very special guest all the way from Canada, Sharnagati place. They're none other than Partha Das Prabhu and Uttama Devi Deswasi. Haribo! Prabhu Mataji have been more than 50 years in Krishna consciousness, and they have many, many wonderful qualities. They were Mata Prabhu was head pujari. Mataji used to dress and make wonderful arrangements for the in the back, ornaments, other stuffs. Not even that, they realized that over the time that how unhappy the marriages can be. We know that US is one of the highest divorce rates in the country. Realizing that, and of course, devotees were not different either. Many devotees were unhappy, all the stuff there. Realizing that, to take care of devotees is the most important part, as Prabhupada always desired, they became marital counselors. And so they became the founding members of Grace Vision teams and Love Mentored numerous couples all over the time. They have done many, many seminars over the time, which has really helped many devotees. I was just talking to Mataji and Prabhu that, when a devotee couple wants to get married also, there are a lot of challenges. And by Prabhu and Mataji, what they are doing is many temple presidents or GBC are sending them for a quick course to understand marriage is a next chapter to how to get prepared for that one. Similarly, somebody is at Discords also. Prabhu Mataji are very kind enough to help it out itself. So we thought this will be a really wonderful opportunity that Prabhu and Mataji will come and bless us with their lot of wealth of knowledge. So without taking too much time, Grace Prabhu and Mataji. Hare Krishna. Six. Yes, please. Sure. First time, get a special gift.
I have to say I'm very amazed at how beautiful the temple here is. It's awe-inspiring. And I was a head pujari for 20 years in Vancouver, so I know what goes on behind the curtains, behind the scenes. Thank you. Probably behind the deity department. There's probably over 100 hours service every day, making garlands, cleaning the paraphernalia, polishing the paraphernalia, making garlands, cooking, chopping vegetables, buying the boga. It's an incredible amount of service that goes on around the deities. And then also cleaning the temple, and the grounds here are very beautiful, meticulously kept. And it's so much bhakti invested in the temple. So I'd like to express my appreciation to all the devotees who are rendering all that service, and especially to the head pujari who's organizing all that, and to Nilamadava Prabhu, who's the temple president. Kalakanta Prabhu from the Krishna House one time was temple president in Vancouver, and he was speaking to some students. And at the end of the presentation he gave, they asked, what do you do here? He said, I'm the temple president. And they said, what do you do? What does that mean, temple president? He said, it means I deal with all the problems that no one else wants to deal with. So Nilamada Prabhu, he is helping to coordinate all this. So I would just like to express my appreciation to all devotees here. This is such a beautiful temple, beyond my wildest expectations. And I'd also like to express my appreciation to our founder, Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, who has actually brought us all here together in this Krishna consciousness movement and created so many wonderful temples like this all over the world. So I thank you all very much. So we will read from Bhagavad Gita. And it's 6. Okay. So I'm going to read from 10th chapter. Pardon?
Maybe all together we can
Sure.
invoke the blessings of the previous acharyas so that we may fully get their mercy. And we can all chant together. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadadmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapite Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. That's why it's called invocation, because we get to invoke mercy.
So I will read from chapter 14, text 10. Rajas tamas chapibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamas sattvam rajastata. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Srila Prabhupada's purport. When the mode of passion is prominent, the mode of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifest in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pasad Sadesha Tarane Om Magana Timarandasha Janan Janan Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we were going to talk tonight a little bit about how our Krishna consciousness is very much related to our relationships we have with the devotees around us. And the manifestation of our Krishna consciousness, or lack of it can also indicate our level of Krishna consciousness. Let me just a little closer. Okay. Is that good? Okay. So we can just think of one example. I'll ask, has anyone here ever had an argument with someone? You raise your hand. Okay. Has anyone here ever had an argument with someone in the temple before Radhamadava or before your worshipable deity? Has anyone ever had an argument in the temple? Well, there's no hands. A couple of Brahmins here are very truthful. So generally, we don't really argue with someone in the temple because we understand here's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and here are the devotees of the Lord who we want to treat with great respect and compassion and love. So we have that understanding in the temple. This is a sacred place, and we act accordingly. At the same time, sometimes in our residence or private ashrams, sometimes we can slip into a different consciousness. We can become a little familiar and maybe speak harshly or inappropriately. So we can ask ourselves, why is that disconnect there? And what are we experiencing when we're in the temple of the Lord and having these loving exchanges with devotees? That's obviously the mode of goodness, and we're coming very close to touching pure goodness in the temple. In those private settings where we become a little familiar, as this verse is saying, sometimes the mode of passion can become prominent and defeat goodness and ignorance, or sometimes ignorance can become prominent and defeat even goodness and passion. Lord Kapila Deva, in his instructions to his mother Devahuti, is also describing the modes of material nature. And there's one verse that I remember, it stuck with me when I first read it. As a pujari, Lord Kapila Deva is describing that if one may worship me in the form of the deity, and he says if one is envious of others, he says that worship is like pouring ghee on ashes. When you have a fire sacrifice, you pour the ghee on the flames, and the flames get nourished and they burn brightly. But you pour ghee on ashes, it just makes smoke. So in our lives, when we get influenced by the modes of material nature, we may behave in ways which are like pouring ghee on ashes. It's interesting, Lord Kapila Deva describes that's also devotional service. He describes how there's 9 different forms of devotional service and the 3 modes of material nature, and you can combine that in something like 81 different varieties. So there's a whole spectrum even of devotional service in the modes of material nature. So I could be a pujari rendering service to the deity, and if my consciousness isn't really properly focused, I can actually be in the mode of ignorance. Somehow, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, even though I may be in the mode of ignorance, somehow Krishna is accepting my service, and we're making some advancement. Krishnadas Kaviraj, he describes that even if one makes offenses in chanting the holy name, he should just continue chanting, and gradually will become purified. But this verse in Bhagavad Gita, it's a very key verse in the sense that it really gives us a little touchstone. You know what a touchstone is? There was this kind of a myth in the 17th, 16th century that there was some kind of magical touchstone that if you found this, anything you touch would turn to gold. So we actually have the touchstone in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books, because he's giving us ways and means to elevate ourselves above the modes of material nature to goodness and to a path to pure goodness, in which, as described in this purport, we can come to this Vasudeva state by which we can attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse gives a really key point about how these modes are present in all different activities. And Krishna describes in different places what determination looks like in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, what eating is like in different modes. And so being aware of that can help us realize, what mode am I actually in at this moment? Am I in goodness? I'm in passion. I am ignorance. And also that's applicable to our relationships and how we deal with others. And Srila Prabhupada is indicating in this verse, he says, the modes may be competing back and forth, but he says by practice one can develop the mode of goodness. And Bhakti Yoga is a practice. Yoga, Prabhupada described whatever form of yoga one performs, it involves mind control. And so in Bhakti Yoga, we're trying to control our minds so that we can come to the mode of goodness. Just like an example of, say, communication in different modes of material nature. I might have a difference of opinion with Nilamadeva, and I may totally disagree with him, and he may totally disagree with me, and we can have an argument and get angry and resentful with each other and walk away and think that I never want to see that guy again. And sometimes we do things like that. Or we can have a conversation in the mode of goodness. Like Rupa Goswami recommends this, a loving exchange of revealing one's mind in confidence and hearing in confidence. So I can hear Nilamadeva and try to understand why he thinks that way, why that's important to him, why that's such a crucial value to him that he has that idea. I may not agree, but I can respect that. And similarly, he can understand my point of view. He might disagree, but he can understand why I value that and why that's important to me. And in that way, we can agree to disagree and we can be friends. So that's communication in the mode of goodness. And especially in the world today, communication in the mode of goodness is very much absent, especially if you look at the field of politics. It used to be dialogue on how to come to some consensus to do something constructive. Now it's this very rude, crude debate where there's insulting, and it's actually very unhealthy. It's not on the platform of goodness. So again, Krishna consciousness means to try to understand how to develop the mode of goodness and learn to see. And especially in activities in relationships, we can see that there's some activities are very unconducive to having healthy relationships. And those are like weeds around one's devotional creeper. One thing we find that sometimes, especially grahastas, they may think that their ashram is something different than their spiritual life. And it's a common thing for devotees. They'll think, well, my ashram is just a material thing, and my only spiritual life is when I come to the temple or when I go on Sankirtan. That's my real spiritual life, and my family life is something different. Actually, your family life, your relationship with your wife and your children is also a very important part of your spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada was questioned by one of our god sisters once because she wanted to kind of farm her kids out to someone else, and she said, I'd like to do some more direct service. And Prabhupada replied and said, there's no such thing as direct or indirect devotional service. He said it's all direct. He said if you're performing your service, whatever it is, you're worshiping the deity, cleaning the temple, cleaning the yard, cleaning the bathroom, looking after your kids, working at a job to maintain your family and support the temple, Prabhupada said that is direct devotional service if you're doing that for the satisfaction of Krishna and the satisfaction of the spiritual master. He said that's direct devotional service, and he gave an example. He said just like in this building or any building, there's many electrical wires. All those electrical wires are connected to the powerhouse. So if whatever we're doing in our life, Krishna says, Yat karoshi yarashnasi yaj jahosi dadasa yat tapasyashi kuntaya tat kurusha madarpana. He says, whatever you do or whatever you eat, whatever you give away in charity, do that as an offering to me. So Krishna says, whatever. What does that exclude? He says, all you do, actually, all you do. What does that exclude? Prabhupada one time he said even an alcoholic, he said, even the man who's drinking alcohol, even if he could just think, well, there's some water in here, and the taste of water in this substance is Krishna. Prabhupada said that would be devotional service. So we can develop that vision. It's very important to see how what we're doing is devotional service. It's not that one devotional service is more elevated than another. Krishna appreciates everyone's devotional service. And especially for those of us in the Grihastha ashram, it's very important for us to develop strong, healthy, stable family relationships, because that sets a very great example for society. And when we do it, when we integrate Krishna consciousness fully into our life, it creates what you call a congruence. But there's no difference between what I think, what I say, and what I do. There's no difference. So it's not that I behave in a different way when I'm in my home. I think the same way in terms of Krishna. And if we can develop that congruence, our preaching becomes very, very powerful. Even if we don't have that congruence, we go out and make an attempt to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. It's very powerful. The first devotee I met, he didn't know anything. He tried to sell me. I tried to ask him some questions. He talked to me for a few minutes, and he said, my Sankirtan leader said I shouldn't talk to anyone for more than 2 minutes, and he was going to walk away. And I was shocked, because I'd been looking for devotees for months. And so he gave me a book, and I emptied out my wallet. For some reason, I gave him all the money I had. And then so he's like a brand new brahmachari, just shaved up, didn't know anything. He gives me this book, he's walked away, and I had this, it was like this epiphany I can't describe in words. It was like there was a thunderbolt, and everything became quiet in that city we were in. The only thing I could see, despite the busy street, was this brahmachari wearing a saffron robe, red hair, like had a red sika blowing in the wind, and his robes were, you know, there's a description of Krishna, sometimes his dhoti moves and looks like the blowing of lotus pollen. Well, that's what it looked like. It was some kind of mystical thing. And I realized he was the representative of a very great man. So even though he was lacking in so many ways, somehow Krishna carried what he lacked. So Krishna will carry what we lack, and our preaching can be very effective. But just imagine if we can become more congruent and fully Krishna consciousness, how powerful our preaching will be. People will, you know, when we say, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, well, if I'm not always happy in my ashram and I'm telling people, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, there's a little gap in my application of the philosophy, and maybe it just doesn't quite have the full effect my preaching could be. So it's actually our duty. Prabhupada, if you boil it to the essence, Prabhupada wanted us to chant and be happy. And we should be happy in our ashrams. Doesn't mean there won't be difficulties and challenges, but even in those challenges, we should see that this is a very important ashram. And yes, there's challenges, but those challenges help us to progress and advance in Krishna consciousness. And you should have no doubt about that, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is telling us in Shikshashtaka that if we want to come to the platform of being able to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, we have to develop humility, tolerance, and patience.
I helped you with that a lot, didn't I?
So in the Grihastha ashram, you have a wife who you live very close to, you have children who will drive you crazy, and you can think, this is an annoyance, or you can think, Krishna has put me in the situation to help me learn patience and tolerance. And sometimes we think Krishna is just going to turn a magic switch, and one morning I wake up and everything's just going to be a breeze. It doesn't happen that way. Krishna, he helps us to become tolerant and patient by giving us situations to do that. And so Grihastha ashram, it's a very important ashram, and actually it's a very wonderful ashram for making spiritual advancement. And as my wife says, in Grihastha ashram, you will learn anartha nivriti. You want to say something?
One of my god sisters who works with us, she says, if only people know when they got married, it's not like the fairy tale, you know, ever after. It's called Anartha Nivriti 101. Because when you're close with someone, you can't hide those deeper things in your heart. Person on the street, you know, even in the temple, you don't know someone well. You say, oh, he's a great devotee, and we are great devotees. But when we're in a close, intimate relationship with someone, we can't hide those deeper anarthas in our hearts. And inevitably, because they're an anartha, they are strongly connected to our conditioning. So we say that in material life we're conditioned since time immemorial. So we have this conditioning which sometimes makes us respond in ways which aren't very Vaishnava. Because perhaps in the past something hurt us or wasn't a good impression, and we feel that same feeling coming, and we go, oh no, and so we lash out for protection. Because Krishna has given us a strong sense of self-preservation so we can make it in this difficult material world. However, those are our kind of lower animal instincts, which are necessary. However, we also have a higher self. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we have to overcome the conditioning and impulses of our lower self with our higher self. And so that's easy in good association and when nothing's provoking us. However, sometimes the remembrances of those conditionings spark up, and it becomes hard to respond in positive ways. And it's interesting because nowadays neuroscience has been able to, with MRIs, show how this happens. So there's this little amygdala in the lower part of your brain, and when it gets triggered, it secretes cortisol and adrenaline. And it floods your whole brain so that you actually can't access that higher part of your brain in which you're applying your principles of Krishna consciousness, you're being compassionate, you're remembering what you said to your husband when you had a fight. When couples come to me and say, he said this, no, he didn't, it was this way. You're both wrong. If you were in a fight, neither one of you is remembering it correctly. Nothing's correct. So we need to, like Bhagavad Gita says, we have to notice that conditioning is in effect. And we are going to be triggered by our past conditioning in close relationships or in relationships which are sometimes difficult for us. And so that's when we have to really take shelter of our higher self and our values to act in Krishna consciousness. So in order to do that, we do have to be introspective and notice. We aren't this body, but the body is storing memories, even from past lives, and we may not remember them. But that's what we call like sankalpas, those like troughs in the sand that the water runs down. That's one definition of a sankalpa. It's like you draw a line in sand and the water automatically goes there. So we have these some scars and some sankalpas. Sankalpa, that's not the word. What's the word? Yeah, the impressions. So what's the Sanskrit? No, I know. Sankalpa is your determination, I know. Anyway. Yeah. So you've got this memory, and it just kind of automatically goes in the old conditioned way. So when we can understand what's happening, then we can pick up. The body can be our friend too, in that it can send us those signals. We get the clammy hands, we get the fast beating heart, we get our shoulders tightening, and I'm going to react in my conditioned ways. We can take a breath. We can pause. And sometimes that can stop the body from triggering our conditioned responses. And then when we can take a breath, see, if we don't stop that conditioned response, then our body wants to save us, so it starts secreting cortisol and adrenaline so that we can flee or fight. That cortisol and adrenaline can disconnect our access to our prefrontal cortex, where we are applying our teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And when that happens, we actually don't have access to logic, reasoning, proper application. So then we need a body fix. We need to take a breath, we need to go for a walk, we need to sing Hare Krishna at the top of our lungs, whatever it is that relaxes us, so that protection, cortisol and adrenaline can flush out, filter out, and then again we can come online with our logic and reasoning. So when one becomes more expert in noticing what's a trigger, what's real, what's not real, then we see this happening, and we take the breath, and we perhaps even name the trigger that's happening and think, oh, when this happens, what proper action could I take? And then you start relaxing, and then Krishna's arranged that your upper part of your brain will send some GABA to soothe your conditioning. So Krishna has arranged a body to help us when we're trying to act in the mode of goodness. So we see the example of Jad Bharat. He was carrying the palanquin for Maharaj Rahugana, and because he was a Mahatma, and he saw every spirit soul as every living entity as a pure spirit soul, he wouldn't step on an ant. So he's walking this way and that way, and the palanquin's getting all jiggly, and the king's getting a bumpy ride, and he actually starts to get very upset, and he stops the palanquin, and he gets out, and he sauces out Jad Bharat. So Bhagavatam describes that he had a wave of dissatisfaction. Slight wave, just a slight wave of dissatisfaction, centered himself, and then he was able to invoke all of the higher philosophy and share it with the king. And then the king could understand that he's a great self-realized soul. Then you look at somebody like Daksha, and when he felt just a little insult, from his son-in-law Shiva not standing up in the yajna when he walked in.
He had some past history stored in there.
Yeah, quite a lot of past history stored in his little amygdala there. Basically, all war broke loose between his associates and the followers of Lord Shiva. So much so that this fight happened, and Daksha's head got cut off. And it got replaced with the head of a goat. So sometimes we say, when we just respond to our conditioned nature and we're not responding from our higher self, that we flip our lid. Well, Daksha flipped his head and he got it replaced with he went back to goat head instead of, back to Godhead where he's supposed to go. So we can understand how the body can work in our favor for the application of Krishna consciousness. And if we're finding ourselves starting to go offline, we're getting a little anger, we're getting too many strong emotions, we can take a little break and not say something offensive to other Vaishnavas or even any other living soul, because everybody's part and parcel of Krishna. So when that anger comes, it's not about us. We don't have to start defending ourselves. We just need to, relax and understand that we have some anger because we have a value. We have a value that we want to see something done in the right way, or we don't want to see injustice. Various reasons we can get angry. When we can see the higher principle behind just this gross emotion and take a breath and see, what can I do to act more in the mode of goodness instead of acting in an ignorant mode of anger or passion, then we can correct ourselves. So Bhagavad Gita is describing that in all our relationships, we should control our lower self with our higher self, because we are conditioned. That's just going to happen. So you have to know how to deal with conditioning so that we can have good Vaishnava relationships. So Srila Prabhupada, he's describing that when we know what the center is, then everything that goes around it will work smoothly. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example, just like if you have a drop of pebble in water, you'll see all the concentric circles, and they can go wider and wider and wider. So when we understand what the center is, those circles, Prabhupada said, they don't clash. They don't try to overcome each other, but they work in congruence because they're working around the center principle of Krishna. And when we understand that everything is to work around the center principle of Krishna, then we can have congruence in all of our relationships. And we can see that what happens in our relationships is somehow or other meant to help us remember that center point. So like my husband said, we're going to be tested with, patience and tolerance and maybe feelings of insult or this or that. But those are just tests from Krishna to see if we can stay focused on the center of him and having this samadarshana, that we see this equal respect for all living entities. So that's the definition of a Mahatma, that they are, see everyone equally. So we may not act in the same way with everyone, but we see the equality of the pure spirit soul and that they are deserving respect. Because every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, and so therefore they are deserving respect. So even when someone is acting out, it's just because they have an unmet need, they need some help, and we have to understand that if we can help them with that need, they can perhaps connect back to their understanding that I'm somehow or other valuable in Krishna's eyes so that I can render service to Krishna. Usually we only act negatively when we have an unmet need. And so if we can help each other to meet our real deeper needs, which always have some connection with Krishna, maybe not a straight preaching at him, hey, Prabhu, it's just because you didn't chant your rounds very good, that's why you're having difficulty. Not like that, but with some compassion. And similarly with our children, when they don't do what we ask them, usually it's because they can't. They're a little bit triggered. Some of their friends said something to them. They're tired, they're hungry, they have a need, and their defense mechanism is coming in, and they don't have access to be able to remember that you told them to do it this way and that way. So we have to have compassion, because if we can stay fixed in our higher self, then we can help another person. But if we get triggered by their modes of passion and ignorance that kind of pop in when we don't feel safe, then we start vibrating on their same frequency. And then you see the mom, I told you to be quiet. If you don't be quiet, I'm going to drag you. Like she's just as riled up as the kid who's crying that she has to take out of the temple room. So what benefit is that? So we have to stay grounded in our connection to the center principle. And then we can have good relationships with other people. So we see that people who are really fixed in the Sudasattva platform and the mode of goodness, they vibrate, at a different frequency. And when you come near them, you can pick up that vibration. That's just like when you would come anywhere near Srila Prabhupada, you would automatically pick up in his vibration, and you would just almost against your will start acting in the mode of goodness because that's how powerful it is. So the more that we can stay in the mode of goodness and staying close to our center of Krishna and developing Shuddha-sattva, we can have so much more influence on helping others and have such have much, much better relationships. So maybe you want to say something more?
Say a little more. So Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, Yantra Rudrani Maya, we're encaged in this body, which is like a machine made of material energy. And it's actually a good analogy, because everyone has a car, and these modern cars, there's at least a few gauges, and you pay attention to them. And some of them, if you don't pay attention, it causes big problems. Her father was driving, actually her brother's car once, and he didn't see the red light come on the dash, and it seized up. So he missed the signal. So in the same way, as Uttam was saying, there's sometimes our body gives us signals that we might be escalating, and we might be on the verge of losing touch with our higher self. If you can catch those signals, you can prevent yourself from getting detached from losing your higher contact with your higher self. And we see, like in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, sometimes the Kshatriyas, they would insult each other. You're just like the crooked tail of a dog or something. They're trying to get the other opponent just mad so that they lose touch with their higher self and they won't be able to fight properly. So we need to keep that emotional regulation, which is what yoga is about. And it's also very important because even sometimes we get a little escalated, we might over and not properly read what we're actually feeling. Like Uttam was saying, sometimes we become angry. And we actually understand from our Shastras that, like Hanuman, he used his anger against Ravana, and Lakshman used his anger against Surpanaka. So anger is meant to protect someone you love and care for. And sometimes, like, I might get mad at her because lunch is not ready, and she might get mad at me because I forgot her birthday. But am I like Ravana and is she like Surpanaka? Probably not. It's probably that, maybe I'm just frustrated. Maybe she felt neglected. Yeah, maybe I'm just hungry. Actually, sometimes we just misread simple, basic emotions, and we just go to a very gross emotion. And that's why it's so important to have that emotional control, which we're trying to learn in Bhakti Yoga, especially through chanting japa can help us do that, because it centers us in that place that transcends the material mind, senses, and intelligence, as Prabhupada described it. That's the space we want to live in through the whole day, by practicing the practice of Bhakti Yoga in all our activities, to be in the mode of goodness, and then life becomes very fulfilling and meaningful. So that's the process of Krishna consciousness, and again, like Prabhupada, he wanted us to practice Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day.
And we have relationships where we get to practice it.
So if anyone has any questions, I think we have maybe a few minutes for questions.
I really like the point when you said about the ripples and the center, which I think many times we have seen, and you have seen in your glorious service to Lord, is that when you deal with devotees, the center somehow got obscured, and instead of ripples, they start merging out itself.
The center turns to be me.
Yes. And like Mataji said, that sometimes the needs are not met, and somehow I just think about that, some devotees practice for like 20, 30, 40 years. And what the needs they are not met, they somehow, like some younger person comes and wants to do service. No, this is my service. I can't give it up. So my question is that what needs are not met by them that they can give to the younger and encourage them, and they get into this thing?
Well, a situation like that is their need. They have an attachment for that service. And we can say something like, I can see that you're really attached to that service, and that's a very wonderful thing that you actually love doing that for Krishna. And we probably don't just want to stop him doing that service and leave him hanging with nothing, but we could say, there's another devotee who has an opportunity to make some advancement by doing that service, and we have some other wonderful service for you.
Or you can train them. Prabhupada once said that a pujari means one who engages others. Pujari isn't one who hogs the service. A pujari is someone who engages others in Krishna's service. So I think that if we can respect the service that older devotees have done and get them to tutor and train and pass it on, because we put someone new in the service and so many things they don't know. They may have the enthusiasm, but there's so many things you don't know. And so young enthusiasm and old wisdom can sometimes go really well together. So I think we want to encourage that. And that we're not just valuable because we do this service. We are valuable because we're part and parcel of Krishna. And any service we do, we're still going to be valuable. So sometimes we have this material conditioning that it's linked with my value. But that's not true. So I think if we can somehow value them, that can ease the transition.
I see one thing that's, I think, a need for all of us is the need for being seen, acknowledged, and appreciated. There was one nice Mataji in our community, very, very humble devotee. And she did a Sunday school for 2 years in our community. And she came to us once and said, well, I just can't do this anymore. And so we asked her why. Is it something we can help you with? What happened? And she said, I've been doing this for 2 years, and after 2 years, no parent ever came and said, thank you for doing this. So it's not.
Maybe they don't like what
Yeah.
I do.
So it's not.
They're upset
Yeah.
with me. She didn't know,
So it's not that devotees, they want aggrandizement, but it's just, it's nourishing to know that you're doing the right thing. It's nourishing to know that you're pleasing the devotees. And if we don't, we just maybe assume the devotees know, but we should actually let the devotees in the community know how you appreciate their service. The pujaris, the cooks, temple cleaners, everyone, the people that are supporting the temple, they're all doing such wonderful service. It's important to express that kind of appreciation.
Like if your wife makes some good pizza and you don't say, this is great pizza, she's going to think, I guess he didn't like pizza, and she may not make it again. So if you want pizza again.
There are devotees who their whole life in devotional service was maintained and enthused by Prabhupada giving some little word of appreciation. It was so empowering to them. So it doesn't cost anything to appreciate anyone. And all around us, there's people doing so much wonderful things and qualities we can appreciate about them. And even in terms of relationships, when you cultivate an attitude of gratitude, in your family or in your community, this is a pitch for an investment.
Investment strategy.
An investment strategy. When you express appreciation in your family, community, it creates a reservoir you could call an emotional bank account, a very positive emotional reservoir. And if you have a large positive reservoir, then, inevitably we all mess up, get in the lower mode, say something, do something wrong. That's like making a withdrawal. So just like the bank, if you have $100,000 in the bank, and if you take out 200, you can't really hardly notice that. On the opposite end of the scale, if you have a very low level of appreciation and gratitude, that reservoir is going to be quite small, and it might be like having, say, $500 in the bank account, and you take out, say, 200. It's just, wow, that hurt. That's like a big jump. So it's important to develop that kind of gratitude and appreciation. That's a part of Vaishnava culture, is to appreciate devotees.
And those of you who are married, I know you're not practiced to just give appreciation, but I'll tell you, we were in Bengaluru, and we were training some Namahat couples how to work with their grihastas in their congregation. And so before every session, we would have them turn to their partner and tell them something they appreciated about them, that they'd done that week, or just about their quality and characters. And so after about 3 days, they came back and they said, we've been married 22 years and we never once did this. They said, it's a game changer. So it may feel awkward, but try it. Maybe it'll be a game changer.
Also, that explanation that Uttama gave, how the mind actually works, it's like a physiological explanation of the higher self and the lower self, how it affects us. We've explained that to couples that we were mentoring, and they've also told us it's a complete game changer because they realize what happens when they start to get a little emotionally escalated, and they take a break, and they just,
We don't talk nasty
Yeah.
to each other.
yeah, it's just like your computer goes, if it freezes, you turn it off and restart, and it takes the time to reboot. So sometimes we have to do that with our consciousness. We have to reboot and then come back, and then you can address whatever challenge it was in a more rational, compassionate way.
Because in your lower selves, you can't work out anything. And you can't work out anything by text messaging. Don't think you can just avoid it and text message or something. The statistics for solving conflicts by text messaging, you know what the percentage is? You want to guess? 0.
No emotion.
0. Because we need to connect. We are wired to connect with Krishna. Yoga means to connect. That's our constitutional position, to be connected with Krishna. It's also our position to be connected with each other. And so until we can connect, we can't actually work out anything. Just like until we see that center of Krishna, we're not going to be able to work out anything. So you have to connect with people. So if you're having a one-to-one conversation with someone, and I'm watching your bodily expressions, and I can see when I say something, you're kind of going, I can back off, I can ease off, I can make a compliment, I can adjust, then I can say it again in a way that you can hear it. Because we need to attune to each other and connect, because we can only solve problems when we're connected. Just like we can only solve things when we're connected to Krishna. So we need to look out for each other and help each other stay in their higher selves. Because if we see we're saying things which trigger them to go to their lower selves, you're not going to have a good conversation. But you can watch your kids respond. You can watch your wife, your husband respond when you're talking, and you can see, oh, I can see just by the little expressions they're going there, and make a repair so that you can have a good interaction, even with your friends. So, subtle art, there's a question there.
Kind of being proactive that you should do this, right? Proactively engage in that. But what about the other person that sometimes feels that they should be appreciated, but they're not? Can you address that a little bit coming from the other side? What would they need to do to initiate that?
To initiate the appreciation.
Correct.
So you're saying it may be an attempt to appreciate, but they're not receptive?
No, the person needs appreciation. They feel like they're not getting any. I would start by appreciating them, because people sometimes need to feel it, what it feels like to be appreciated. And also sometimes when the time is right, you can say that I'm worried that you're not appreciating the things that I'm trying to do to make you happy, and I want to know if I'm doing what you need. And if you could let me know when I'm doing it right, then I can do more. And if I'm not doing it right, maybe you could gently, steer me in the right direction. Because wives tend to think that they married mystic yogis. And if you love me, you know, Prabhu. Why do I have to appreciate you before you know? You should just know. But we're not mystic yogis. And so from the other side, we do need to nicely request what we need. And we need to appreciate what we do get. Because when you appreciate, you get more of it. When you complain, you get less of it. So it's just an investment strategy.
All right. Thank you.
Just going to wrap it up. And just to reinforce the importance of understanding the value of the quality of our relationships in terms of our service to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was describing once that he was saying that what is love? He said, no one loves a dead body. He said, why do we love this body? Everyone takes care of the body, exercise, tries to eat healthy. He said, why? He said, because of the presence of the spirit soul. That's why we love this body. I said, why do we love And we said, yeah, because of the presence of the spirit soul. And he said, why do we love the soul in the body? He said, because it's connected to Krishna. That's why we care for ourselves, ultimately because Krishna is there. And then he said, why do we care for others? We care for our spouses, our children, our community members. He said, why do we care for them? And he said, in the same way, because of the presence of the soul. Because of the presence of the soul. And then he said, in this way, that love goes to Krishna. So it's an important part of our service to have healthy, meaningful, affectionate relationships. Very important. And it was very interesting in that conversation, Srila Prabhupada said, sometimes there's a disconnect in that connection, and he said it's illusion, it's Maya. So just like we get disconnected from our higher self, that's an illusion. We start saying these negative things which are detrimental to our relationship, that's Maya. And so we can become perceptive of that. We can correct those things. And I have a request of everyone. If you can do this, we're going to go for prasadam shortly, and on your way to take prasadam, if you can say to your spouse or to a friend here, say something that you appreciate about them, some quality you appreciate in them, or something they've done for you. Tell them what that was that they did, or the quality they have, and how that adds value to your life. Can everyone do that? Raise your hand if you think you can do that. Anyone think they can't do that? I think everyone can do that. And that's a very nurturing thing to develop in our communities, to have appreciation. And again, I just want to say, I'm awestruck at the beauty of this temple. It's like, I appreciate all the work the devotees have put into this. So, anyway, we pray that you all flourish in your Krishna consciousness and your relationships. We do have a website which has a wealth of articles. There's a YouTube channel with hundreds of videos. I'll give the information to Neil Madhav, and he can probably put it on your webpage.
Yesterday you guys mentioned what a wonderful service you're doing. So devotees having issues or other stuff, or like just like you said, a pre-marriage be such a great
So, thank all of you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a small request from Pradyumna Prabhu. Like, since you are from Sharanagati, so Prabhu would like you to address everyone, like, what is Sharanagati and how you are all, like, so many Prabhupada disciples settled within a few minutes, you know.
If you want to find a bunch of dinosaurs, come to Saranagati. Saranagati was a community that was started in the 1980s. And there's about 20 families. We have 1,700 acres of land. It's off-grid, which means everyone had to build their own water systems, create their own source of electricity. Some devotees have solar power. There's a couple what are called micro-hydro systems. And everyone has a garden. There's a few devotees with cows. No one, unfortunately, has any milking cows at the moment. We have our own school, which was a huge asset to our community. We live in kind of a isolated area. It's 20-minute drive from the nearest town in a little mountain valley, small mountains. So there's actually no one else living around us. It's like a little isolated, beautiful little community. Pardon? It's near it's about a 3-hour drive from Vancouver, Canada. If you know where Kelowna is, it's 1 hour from Kelowna. And if you really know your geography, it's close to a little city called Ashcroft, which is a little tiny blip on the map. Winter, you should come and experience minus 30 degrees Celsius.
We have warm houses.
Yes.
Yeah, Prabhu wants to volunteer. Prabhu, you're perfect. December is perfect time for that. Thank you, Sir Prathamatama Mataji. This was wonderful. Really appreciate that. I think how you answered the many questions which many devotees have. And we so appreciate first time you came, and we are so honored by both of you coming here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.